Now I would like to introduce Sarah Storms from Lockheed Martin as our next speaker. Thank you.
First, I'd like to thank Altair for inviting me to speak here. Originally, the person supposed to speak was Joe Swartz, the chief scientist of my program. Unfortunately, he had another customer engagement this week, so here I am instead. My talk is going to be a little bit different in that I'm going to talk about how Altair is part of a larger multi-level secure ecosystem. I'm going to kind of go into what we've developed with this ecosystem and the different vendors that are part of it, and also how Altair fits into that. So my talk is Datacentric Multi-Level Secure RedHot Enterprise Linux Ecosystem, also known as MLS RHEL. Okay, we're going to go into an overview of what MLS and SELinux is, go into a little bit of a definition of what it means to be data-centric, go into the historical of how we've gotten here, and then finally go into a little bit of what each vendor is participating in the ecosystem with. So RedHot Enterprise Linux is our operating system. It forms the foundation of our multi-level secure system. At the heart of the at the core of RHEL is actually Security Enhanced Linux. Security Enhanced Linux, SELinux, was developed by NSA and was made available to the open source community in 2000. It merged with the main Linux core in August 2003 and actually has been commercially supported ever since. So what does SELinux buy you? It buys you the mandatory access controls, it buys you role-based access controls, it also gives you the auditing. And basically, all users, data, processes, everything, the security label is checked by the kernel before any interactions are allowed. So what's Datacentric MLS RHEL? Basically, every single thing that is on your system is given a security label. A security label often consists of a level and a compartment, or it can just be a level by itself. So all networks, whether trusted or untrusted, are given a security label. Any data that comes over that network, any process, any user is applied that same label as the network has. We have various networks that come in that may be given a different label depending upon the IP address that they come in on, but generally it's a one-to-one relationship, one network, one security label. Any user coming over that network is also given that security label. And then data, objects, and processes are labeled based on the security level of the user that created or submitted them. So just kind of looking at very general government application of this. So typically in the government, you have various security levels. Just go with the basic ones: unclassified, secret, top secret. In a non-MLS operating environment, you have a security analyst sitting at a desktop, one for unclassified, one for secret, one for top secret. Each one points to a back-end HPC server. Each of those back-end HPC servers have their own storage. In your MLS environment, you have a data analyst workstation that has all of those security levels on one workstation with one high-performance computer with one direct attached data storage. Or in this case, it can either be direct attached, or we worked with Seagate to develop the Secure Data Appliance, which is a parallel network file system. So basically what this allows you to do is consolidate hardware and enables analyst-driven data fusion. One interesting piece about that MLS operating picture, the one on the right, is actually a built-in functionality of RedHot, is what we call look down, copy up. We call it copy up, or can actually write. But basically, if you have your security levels and your compartments defined in the proper way, somebody coming in at that top secret level can actually look at that data sitting at the unclassified level. And until they modify it at any point, it can reside at the unclassified level. Therefore, you don't have data replication. Saves on how much data storage that you need in the long run. just kind of a basic commercial application. You have your retail store, you have a back-end server doing your credit card processing, holding your PII, doing any type of approvals. That's all being done over the internet, whether unencrypted or encrypted traffic. Your internet's also your bad guy egress point. I've had a lot of commercial applications recently, commercial vendors that have had credit cards processing stolen, that type of stuff. They were running in an MLS configuration. You could have all your different interactions or processing being done at different security levels. So you can have your S1, your base unclassified level. Anything that they do need on the open internet can be found there. That data, because you have it in the correct way, you can actually look down to that data. Then you can have your point of service interactions that can occur at level S2. There's no way from the internet to get into that S2 level, so there's no bad guy egress point to go ahead and intercept those interactions. Same with, you can have credit card processing at S3, and you can have other company processing at S4. One interesting note about this is you can have a backend MLS database. So we've been working with Crunchy Data Systems to develop that MLS database. Go into a little bit more information about that in a little bit. So basically what this configuration does is with the role-based access control, you limit your insider threat. And then with the MLS, you isolate functions so that if one area does get penetrated, you don't lose connection to your other applications. And then when you encrypt all your traffic, you also eliminate the egress points for Trojans. So I work as part of a small supercomputer facility called the Centralized Supercomputer Facility. We've been doing data-centric, multi-level security operating configurations for the last 20 years. So we started back with Craig's Trusted Uticos. We moved into Trusted IRIX. We did Trusted Solaris, or Solaris with Trusted Extensions. And most recently, we've moved into the RedHot Enterprise Linux with SELinux in enforcement mode with the MLS applied. This has been huge for us. My group supports over 20 different security levels. I have, small in comparison to most people here, but I have about 200 plus users over those 20 different security levels. So this has been able to help us minimize hardware, licensing, operating configuration, and also manpower costs. So we do that with a small staff of about 15. Only 3 to 4 of those are operations and maintenance people. The rest are actually just program management, security, which is also what I'm part of, as well as we have a technical user support team that takes code and makes it run efficiently on HPC architectures. Multi-level secure ecosystem isn't really useful until you apply resource management, until you apply direct to network attached storage, until you do system monitoring. Especially in my case, I need to do audit reduction and also databases. So that's what Joe and our team has been working on for the past several years, is working with vendors in the community to develop these products so that this multi-level secure system is actually truly useful and usable by the broader community. So here's just a list of our current partners. I'll go into them one by one. So what's CFCF doing? Basically, we've been the ones pushing for the ecosystem. So every product that you see that I'm gonna talk about today, or every vendor that we're working with, for the most part, we have running today in operations in the Centralized Supercomputer Facility. We've also achieved the Intelligent Community Directive 503, which is the accreditation directive that the DNI handed down. We've achieved ICD 503 accreditation on all of the different pieces of our ecosystem. We're also here to give the classified areas tours and demonstrations. So we've put together 2 system configurations. We have the single system image RedHot configuration under 6.5. That's been fully ICD 503 accredited. We recently just completed factory acceptance testing on the cluster configuration with Cray, also with RHEL 6.5. And as soon as we get that installed at site, we just procured a CS400. As soon as we get that in, we'll do site acceptance testing, and that one will be fully ICD 503 accredited. We also do direct attach RAID as our scratch space. We've done XFS as well as the EXT branches. We have configuration management. We've been working with RedHot and their security content automation profile through SCAP to do our configuration management. This is also significantly helping us with our ICD 503 accreditations. Once we go through training, we'll also be doing OVAL to do mitigation on the system. In Subversion, we have specialized scripting for installing our configurations. We also have a privileged user guide. So basically, our objective is to work with the broader population, work with the vendors, and get MLS-capable versions of their software out to the general public. So we will be working with the Unified Cross-Domain Support Office, Cross-Domain Services Management Office, UCDSMO. We will be taking this MLS ecosystem through their accreditation process within the next year or so, and we're helping to coordinate that. So moving into our vendors, so RedHot, of course, is our operating system. That's the base of all of the MLS products. They've helped us by supporting with documentation, supporting all of our government meetings as needed, fixing bugs as they've come up, and they've helped us in multiple outreach efforts that we've done with this ecosystem. Okay, how does Altair fit into this? So 3 or 4 years ago, I don't remember what it was, we needed a job scheduling system that was MLS aware, and one didn't exist. So we went to the greater community and we asked who was interested in creating one of these for us. And Altair answered that call. So basically, before we had a multi-level secure version aware of PBS Pro, we had an individual instance of PBS Pro at all of our different security levels, so 18 instances of PBS Pro. And basically what we had was a surgery board, and on there we wrote what user it was. Luckily I have less than 200 users, probably 50 of them may be active actually in running HPC jobs at any given time. So I could write their name on the board, write cores what they were assigned, write how many hours they believed, and so what we did was we turned all the queues on all the different security levels off. And then as we were the scheduler, so we used PBS Pro as kind of the queuing, but then the TUS team, did all the scheduling. So after we got the MLS aware version of PBS Pro, no longer the case. The system knows what's going on at all the different security levels, can go in, can schedule, can release jobs. Systems are a lot more utilized, a lot more full because you don't have a man in the loop. We've actually gotten fairly sophisticated for us and have added some priority hooks and are starting to investigate what the more useful parts of PBS Pro and are moving forward with that. So Seagate, it was Xyratex when we started working with them. They developed our secure data appliance. It's a MLS Lustre file system that's based on their Cloud Store product. The underlying operating system on that product is actually the single system image configuration, that RHEL configuration that the CFCF program developed. Their secure data appliance is actually configurable to multi-petabytes per rack. They've been demonstrating some capability with Hadoop, and it's actually showing a 30% faster response over non-Lustre configurations. We took this through the ICD 503 accreditation process last year, so it's a fully ICD 503 accredited product. We have 2 systems in place at the supercomputer facility where I work. And what this really did for us was it allowed us to centralize the data storage of our large data sets as well as our home directories. So at our different enclaves, we have an HPC system. We also have what we call our utility servers for non-HPC. Most of the time it's for visualization. And what was happening that as a user finished up an HPC job, they had to transfer all of that data over to the utility server to then be visualized. Now with this parallel file system, all of that data is central so that they can actually they can be visualizing their data as a job is actually finishing up. And they've been supporting us in getting the ecosystem out to the general public as well. Lockheed Martin is actually working with Phileas, RPI Consulting, and CSC to develop training classes. the notion of MLS, and especially SELinux and enforcement mode, has always been, it's hard. So what we're trying to do is get it out to the general public and say it really isn't once you know what you're doing. It's pretty easy to do, and you can do it with minimum O&M team. So they've done the installation, configuration, and testing class. They're actually, this week is the second one going on out in Minneapolis. And interestingly enough, that's with a bunch of banking partners. There's an MLS configuration administration class in development, a security class in development, and also a database class in development. And those first classes are scheduled to be held, I believe, 1st of next year. So Bay Microsystems is another one of our vendors that's been doing long haul InfiniBand, and this has been allowing us to do a sharing of our secure data appliances to all local and remote systems. We're actually, CFCF is in the process of moving their data center from the East Coast to the West Coast. While we're doing that, we're going to have to transfer and sync data between our secure data appliances, and we're in the process of installing this capability to be able to have the syncing between our secure data appliances and our systems across the country. So Mellanox added native MLS extended attributes into the IB protocol. Where this was huge for us is in the configuration of actually our cluster system. There was no need for TCP IP over the IB to carry the MLS labels. Now those MLS labels are in the native IB protocol. So Splunk does a system monitoring as well as audit reduction. That was part of our ICD 503 accreditation, was the audit reduction part. That actually came SELinux compliant out of the box and just kind of worked. We're just working with them now to evaluate some other plugin capabilities, as well as how to do some MLS features to get the system monitoring actually out in front of our users, because currently everything that's done through Splunk has to be done at the, what we call the system high level, therefore it's not visible to our users, so we are working with Splunk to do that. Crunchy Data Systems, as I talked about, is doing our multi-level secure database. They are developing Postgres security enhancements with row-level security and fine-grained permissions and auditing. They're doing this completely open source in conjunction with an intelligence community contract. They're developing implementation of Postgres using row-level security to integrate SELinux to meet our MLS requirements, and we've been doing various demonstrations with them. We are in the process of getting this software ICD 503 accredited and hope to have that done by the end of the year. Vion has been just providing customer integration support for all the demonstrations that we have been doing of this MLS ecosystem. They have been helping us with Enterprise Challenge. They recently participated with us in GeoInt, and they're moving forward with various other projects and contracts. And they're also the reseller and the support system for the secure data appliance at the CFCF. Of course, SGI, those were our first systems that we put the RedHot single system image operating system on. They've been supporting us through the single system image development and also through the ISD 503 accreditation. Right now we run OpenMPI on all our HPC machines, so we are working with them to get an MLS version of their message passing toolkit, which will hopefully reduce our MPI communications over at least 10%. We have 8 systems installed at CFCF, both UV1000s and UV2000s, and we just procured a UV3000 that we hope to have on our floor in the February timeframe. Cray is who we worked with to develop the first MLS cluster, and the basic configuration includes PBS Pro, also direct attached storage. They worked with Seagate to attach a secure data appliance to it and test, and we should have that on our floor and accredited also in the February timeframe. Lanol is working with CFCF to deploy an MLS cluster configuration of their own, and they also acquired a MLS secure data appliance for evaluation. We're helping them with other MLS configurations as well. And then we're also working with the High Performance Computing Modernization Office to do an MLS cluster configuration based on the CFCF RHEL configuration with them. Any questions?
And then we have the problem on our storage of who has access to what when. So, I mean, is there any integrations that you know about in the biospaces for MLS security for on cluster data storage?
I don't believe that they're working with anybody, but that's certainly an area that we like to get into. Like I said, they're working with banking currently, but this applies to more than just government. It applies to more than just banking. It goes to especially proprietary information. HIPAA laws apply, so I know protection of any information from a security aspect, and that's really where the MLS comes in. You don't always need this look down right up. You can separate. I had another group that was doing pharmaceuticals, so they had Johnson & Johnson, they had various other ones, and they needed them to all run on the same machine, separate their data. Well, you just give them a different security level, you give them a different context, you give them a different IP. Whatever username that you give them to log in matches with that IP. Once they're in, then you have mandatory access controls. It's stronger than those discretionary access controls. They can't go in and change it. You can separate that data. And then with the secure data appliance, then it's all labeled. You have one physical system. You can have up to several petabytes of data storage on that, and it's all separated and you don't have to worry about it. It's just done by the configuration.
That really sounds good. Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions?
So for this MLS ecosystem, will it be only applied to US community only, or can global community be able to leverage it?
All of this is open source, or we're working with vendors that work in the global community, so all of this is definitely open to the global community. When it comes to working specifically with Lockheed Martin and the Centralized Supercomputer facility, that interaction may be export controlled, but all of this is just part of the broader HPC community and not specific to US only.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank you.